It's a very tricky issue with these superdelegates. Let's get to Contessa with Superdelegates 101. Professor Contessa, go for it.
You did not pay your class enrollment fee, so you're out, but I'm going to let everybody else know what they are, Amy. Okay, we're talking so much about superdelegates this year because it's such a close race between Senators Clinton and Obama. Now, in previous years, we know the nominee shortly after Super Tuesday. This year, all bets are off. All those party operatives, those elected officials, those so-called superdelegates will play a key role getting the candidates to that magic nominating number of 2025. This year, there are 795 of them, and they make up 20% of all Democratic delegates. Now, in such a close race, each candidate needs the superdelegates just to win. The support of key undecided superdelegates like former Vice President Al Gore or New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson will also offer a critical chance for a candidate to gain a key psychological advantage. Right now, Senator Obama is ahead in pledged delegates with a total of 1,366 to Senator Clinton's 1,227. With the superdelegates, Clinton is still in the lead there, 254 to 214 at the last count. So add all of that up, and it brings the grand total to Obama, 1,580. Clinton's total, 1,481. And don't forget, it takes 2,025 to win the nomination. And then there's this whole thing about Michigan and Florida delegates, more than 300 of them, and they don't count right now because those states violated the national party rules. So really, Amy, this is a day-to-day race to the nomination. We have to wait and see.
All right, Contessa, thanks so much.
Sure.
Oh, it's getting interesting, that's for sure. You know, this is an exciting time for our party, and it's certainly a very exciting time to be a superdelegate. You know, usually the only good thing about being a superdelegate is you don't have to go through the process of running for a delegate spot through your congressional district or in Texas through a Senate district. I can just go straight to the convention and have my vote. But it really matters this time, and I think most of us who are superdelegates are taking it very seriously as we are choosing, we'll end up probably choosing the nominee of our party and more than likely the next president of the United States.
Yeah, a lot of pressure on you right now. Any idea when you're going to make your decision and how you're going to make your decision?
I honestly don't know yet. I go back and forth every day. It's a struggle for me to decide who I think is the best choice. And I often say my brain leans Clinton, my heart leans Obama. You know, Clinton did have a very decisive victory in Ohio and Rhode Island and a clean victory here in Texas. And I think that speaks volumes for her campaign to really come back and show the American people that she is ready to fight on. And I honestly don't know at this point what I'm going to do or when I'll make that decision. It might actually come all the way down to the convention for me personally, and I think a lot of superdelegates are in that same position.
Yeah, I mean, David, it's interesting. A lot of the superdelegates saying, you know, I'm going to wait and see. You know, I know you are there in Texas, but in other areas where they haven't yet had their primaries or their caucuses, I'm going to wait and see the will of the people. But isn't that hard to determine because, you know, the way the delegates are divvied out, the caucuses versus the primaries, the popular vote versus the delegate count, how do you sort it all out?
I honestly don't know. And, you know, there's a lot of talk of those of us who are superdelegates voting the will of the people. Well, honestly, the will of the people are just as divided as we are. At this point, there's probably no way for any of the candidates, or either candidate, to get the 2025 or 2024, as Howard Dean has told us, pledged delegates to win this nomination. And right now, there are about 100 delegates apart from each other, and that's probably not going to change much going into the convention. And that's pretty much a statistical dead heat, and so there really isn't a will of the people going any direction right now because it really is a clearly divided electorate.
Yes, it keeps all of us in business, though. David Hart, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Turning back to politics and the role of superdelegates now on the road to the Democratic nomination. That's the select group of Democratic Party leaders and officials and legislators who can tip the scales in the balance of either candidate, either for Hillary Clinton or for Barack Obama. Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown is an undecided Ohio superdelegate. Senator, I guess that makes you pretty important.
I guess. I don't know. Right.
Yeah, I think it does. Let's talk about this talk of superdelegates shortcutting or short-circuiting the system, and instead of taking this all the way to the convention and letting voters raise their paddles, coming up with some kind of a deal. Do you think that that might be the way this works out for the Democratic Party this time around?
There's going to be no backroom deals. There's going to be no underhanded kind of effort by me or any superdelegates I know. My reason for remaining uncommitted was for when these candidates came to Ohio, I wanted them to talk about the middle class and about manufacturing and trade policy and in a very different direction from what George Bush is doing, and I think they are doing that. The first thing John McCain did was, after clinching the nomination, was get the blessing of George Bush, and we're seeing very different views of where to take this country, either more of the same or something different.
John McCain can get out and start trying to raise up the support and the money and all that he needs for the general election. The two Democratic candidates are still bickering back and forth with each other.
Well, the bickering comes more from you guys, frankly. The two candidates are talking about issues. They're talking about trade. They're bringing forward ideas and energy.
Well, today,
and John,
Howard...
well, wait a second. And they're bringing forward ideas and energy to the voters directly. That's why 2.5 times more voters voted in Ohio on the Democratic side and in Texas than in the Republican side. And John McCain is just sort of out there not doing very much except visiting with George Bush. So I just don't buy this that many try to portray that this is a problem for the Democrats. We're the party of ideas and energy, and the Republicans want to continue the course of what's happened the last 5 years.
I just wanted to make a note that on the bickering front, it was the Clinton campaign today that said that Barack Obama is acting more like Ken Starr. We didn't just make that up.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Okay, but that being said, the fact of the matter is, if this goes all the way to the convention, and at this point, the race looks so tight. I mean, you're looking at Puerto Rico and the 55 delegates in Puerto Rico that might make a real big difference. This is unlike any Democratic campaign in recent history, correct?
Yeah, maybe it's 1924 where we go 100 ballots. Obviously not, but I mean, this is good. This is good. It was good for Ohio because the candidates. I just talked to Senator Clinton, and she and I've said I talked to Senator Obama pretty often. They really have brought ideas. They've learned the state. This is good for democracy. Millions more people voting. The voters, whether they're in Puerto Rico or whether in Minnesota or Ohio or Texas or coming up in Mississippi, they're American citizens that are speaking out in increasingly large numbers. And how is this not good for democracy and good for my party and good for the country?
Are you talking to Obama and Clinton so much because they keep calling you saying,
of course, yeah.
Support me, support me?
Well, of course I'm talking to them when they call me about support. I talk to them about the Ohio middle class and jobs and trade, and they're being very responsive to voters' concerns around the country. And this is the greatest thing that's happened to the party in a long time, I think.
Senator Brown, I know you're a busy man. Thanks so much for spending a few minutes with me.
Thanks.
Correct, unless she gets the superdelegates, correct?
Actually, neither candidate can at this point, if you do the math. I mean, even if there's, an overwhelming tide in some of these states that are still left, they're both going to need some of these superdelegates.
And they're going to need, I believe it's something like a very high percentages in the remaining states left with the delegates available to pull out a win. So what are we looking at in terms of the future for how long before we know who becomes the Democratic nominee? Is it going to be August?
I think it could be sometime in June if they can figure out some way to count the Michigan and Florida delegates.